talk Donovan Mitchell and the New York Knicks. It's very interesting to me as we chase this story. And we've been on this story probably for 2 months now.
Yeah.
Waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah.
And nothing's happened. And I was having a conversation with an NBA guy I talk to on a pretty regular basis. And he's pretty well connected. He's given us great information. And we were just talking back and forth. And he said to me, why hasn't this deal been done? And this is a guy that's worked in the NBA for 25, 30 years. Why hasn't this deal been done? Is the main question that people are asking now. It's not a matter of if. It's not a matter of no, it's not going to happen. The question NBA insiders are asking now about Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks is, why hasn't this deal been done?
Y'all feel me?
Everybody freaked out over the RJ Barrett contract. It was inconsequential to making a Donovan Mitchell trade for the Knicks.
Uh-huh.
The deal has been in place for 2 weeks. The moment that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving went back to Brooklyn, this deal was in place.
Facts.
The Lakers are willing to give their 2 first-round picks. The Knicks are willing to give their 2 first-round picks. So why is the deal not done? That is the biggest question. And the answer seems to be unknown because it feels like the Knicks want this deal done. We all know the Lakers are thirsty to get this deal done.
Yeah.
So why isn't it done? And the answer is I don't know. My guess is it can only be one of 2 things. The Jazz are hesitant to buy out Russell Westbrook, or there is disagreement on which players the Knicks should include in this deal for Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe, and I know I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again today, I just cannot believe that we are in a place 2 months down the road on this deal, and we're still wondering if Quentin Grimes is holding it up. That doesn't feel...
It's incredible.
That doesn't feel logical to me. And now the interesting part of this is that we continue to hear, hey, why isn't this deal done? Well, Quentin Grimes. It's not Quentin Grimes. There's something else here that we don't know. And I don't know what that is. The salary cap money makes sense. It adds up. Don wants to be in New York. I would guess the Jazz are willing to trade him there. The Knicks certainly would like him in New York. And the Lakers would like to unload those 2 first-round picks as long as you take Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the holdup? My guess is, and people are starting to wonder, if Danny Ainge has an appetite to buy out Russell Westbrook. I can only imagine that that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, it's a tough situation. I think that you're right. We have been covering this story for a long time. We have been on the Donnie to the Knicks train for a long time. The Donnie Doppler was even created because we needed something to talk about, right? Like,
I'm saying.
That's kind of where, and I'm only half joking. Like, I mean, that's where this story is at. It is, we damn near had an argument in the chat yesterday on the show because people were pissed that, that the Jazz was all everyone was talking about. Hey, we need something else to talk about. Well, what do you want us to do? I think that Danny is, I just think he's ruthless. Like in terms of trades and negotiation, I think the guy won't do a deal unless it is like in his box, in his rubric. Like, hey, 4 unprotected first round picks, a 5th or a 6th in the second round or whatever that those 2 obscure picks would be. And this whole thing about buying out Russell Westbrook, if it's not in his game plan or he doesn't want to do that, he's not going to do the deal. And that's what I think is really fascinating because you can make the case that by choosing not to trade Donovan Mitchell and not picking up the draft capital and the young players and everything that you would get from this deal because you don't want to spend $47.5 million or whatever the final number winds up being to pay out Russell Westbrook, you can make a case that that's bad business. Honestly, you can, because right now, I think we can all agree the Utah Jazz are not an NBA Finals contender. You're not even going to sniff. You're going to barely sniff the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And to me, if you're not willing to buy out Russell Westbrook, what are we really even doing here? You know what I mean? Like, if you're not willing to sacrifice on some level to get a deal done, what was all of this for? Are you really telling me, Danny Ainge, that you're going to spend the whole summer, all the phone calls, all the time, all the scouting, all the effort, all the cups of coffee, all the early mornings to not do a deal over buying out a guy in Russell Westbrook that's never going to put on a Jazz uniform.
That's right.
A guy that they're straight up having to defend in the media. Jeannie Buss had to come out and say, hey, yeah, Russell Westbrook was our best player last year, which is complete garbage, by the way.
Well, and Darvin Ham, how many times has Darvin Ham said that I have a plan to use Russ? And
they've had to legitimize, they've had to justify Russell Westbrook. So that's why I say it's very clear that Russ has obviously lost his reputation in the league with what he's done over the last couple of seasons. So you're really not going to do this deal. It seems, again, this is conjecture. Nobody, as you just said, nobody knows the true reason why this deal hasn't been done. But if you look at the tea leaves and you look at the different pillars of this deal, the buying out Russell Westbrook portion only makes sense. So you're not going to do this deal over buying out Russ. That I have trouble with.
Well, and sources at the Jazz have routinely told me that they are not going to make rash decisions financially, mainly because I think they're finally in a position to get their financial house in order. But the $47 million makes a lot of sense.
And would it be a rash decision?
I don't think it would. I think when you look at what $47 million is, it's an expiring contract.
Yes.
So that's a weapon. You can keep that on your roster. So for me, I just think it's one of those interesting things.
Bro, if we have the ability, not to cut you off there, but if we have the ability on this show, and the media has the ability, generally speaking, locally and nationally, to project forward and say, hey, once this KD, Kyrie, Nets saga comes to an end, the Lakers are going to be out there looking to make a deal. Because remember, that was the reporting. You know, we weren't sure if the Lakers wanted to get involved with the Jazz or like if there was another deal they were going to do, but you knew the Lakers were going to get involved. So at that time, if you're Danny Ainge, I mean, again, I don't know this to be fact, but I feel pretty good about saying, hey, he's made calls to the Lakers. Him and Rob Pelinka have talked. So,
multiple times.
Like, if you've known,
Danny Ainge and Rob Pelinka have talked on a regular basis, not nearly as much as Danny and Leon have talked, but there's no doubt that you're exactly right. Danny and Rob Pelinka have had regular conversations because I don't think there's any question that the Los Angeles Lakers, and I've been told repeatedly, the Lakers value Bojan Bogdanovic. We were first with that story because they were hot after Bojan, but they did not have the assets to make that trade happen. Danny's not going to trade Bojan Bogdanovic in that Pat Beverly deal because that loses Danny leverage with the Knicks.
Yes.
So there's a reason that Bojan wasn't included in that trade. And I think when you look at Bojan Bogdanovic, he absolutely has the ability to be a knockdown three-point shooter, which is what they've lacked for 3 years now.
That, in my opinion, is his highest and best use. I mean, he can play in the post, as you saw with the Jazz, but his highest and best use is asking him to be a knockdown 43, 44% shooter from three. And that's why I say, like, I'm not saying you're wrong about this rash decision, sort of, hey, make sure we take our time and, get this right as far as getting our financial house in order. I completely agree. That's what they should be doing. But this concept around having to rush, I just can't get down with it because you've known all along. You knew the Lakers were going to be a player if that Nets thing didn't work out. So that's why I say it's fascinating to me that it's not done. I think it's just incredible. And the longer it goes on, the longer you start to wonder, is it Russ or is it Grimes? Because it's one of the two. I mean, I don't know what else it would be.
I can't believe it's Grimes. I can't. And hopefully we'll get some clarity on that today. I want to step back to college football because Marlon Shaw gave us a $10 tip. Marlon, really appreciate you, man. Glad you're here today.
Thank you, Marlon.
Texas and OK early leave could be a huge bargaining chip in TV negotiations. ESPN wants them in. ESPN Fox want USC and UCLA in the Big Ten, could play into a bigger dollar deal for the Big 12 as part of negotiations for TV. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think you're exactly right. I think that if we talked about it yesterday about ESPN, I think what they want is a merger between the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Mm-hmm. I think they want what's left of the Pac-12 to join with the Big 12, and they form a conference. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what would be best for ESPN, but I don't think there's any doubt. Your ESPN, by the way, you just did a deal with the SEC. You want Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC.
Yes.
You absolutely want Texas and Alabama. You absolutely want Oklahoma and Georgia playing big football games. Yeah, you want those games. Those are huge TV games. Yeah. So, Marlon, you're exactly right. I agree 100%. Joel says, never going to get a football chip, But hey, get some more basketball ones. Those bring in the big bucks. Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Patrick Bourne tips his cap to Marlon Shaw. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Marlon. Well done, sir.
Marlon Shaw said, you did say we should have laws similar to other countries that lead to arrests. Yes, we absolutely said that.
Yeah, we did say that. That's correct.
Absolutely said that. That's not currently the culture in our country. He's talking about BYU volleyball. In this situation with Duke, I do think if you racially abuse somebody, that should be a crime.
Yeah.
I absolutely think it should be a crime. All right, talking the very latest on Donovan Mitchell and the Knicks right here on Monty in the Morning, presented by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Give them a call. You deserve an advocate today. I would tell you their website's easy to use, fantastic, UtahAdvocates.com. I think the Jazz now... I think need is a strong word, but there's been so much buzz around a Donovan Mitchell trade. I don't know, and I think the question you have to ask about this Don trade now, will Donovan Mitchell ever have more value than he has today? And I think the answer is maybe. If he comes to camp, he opens the season, he scores 30 points a game, his value goes up. If he defends, his value goes up. But do you believe that he's going to do that? I personally do. Seeing the way he's worked this summer, Jake, I think there's if I'm the Utah Jazz, yes, if I can make this deal now for 2 unprotected picks from the Knicks, 2 from the Lakers, $47 million in cap space, I'm doing that.
Let me put it this way. Let's take it off of Don for a second. And I agree with you, I would do that. But let's take it off of Don for 1 second. Let's pose the question of, is it viable for the organization not to do the deal? From an organization standpoint, like, think about it. Will there be a time in the next decade, because I don't think that's an exaggeration, in the next decade, will there be a time where the Utah Jazz have the leverage over the league that they have now? Think about this. Danny Ainge has dominated the trade cycle in the NBA the entire summer. Everyone forgets about his first trade. Everyone thinks, oh, the Rudy Gobert trade was the first trade. Not true, sir. First trade was Royce O'Neal, first-round pick. That's how we kicked off the summer with the Jazz. Second trade was Rudy Gobert. Got an absolute haul, wrecked the Kevin Durant trade market, and there hasn't really been anything outside of the DeJounte Murray to the Hawks for trades in the NBA. And all we've been talking about is Donovan Mitchell. So to me, when I talk about, hey, all this effort and consternation, all the cups of coffee, as I said, all the early mornings and the conversations, this deal to me has to be done. And if it doesn't get done, I think you're asking for trouble at this point, because even if he does, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, will come back and have a career year. Yeah. I don't know if it's an MVP caliber season. That's kind of hard to say, but I think he's going to have a career year. If he does that, are the Knicks, does that mean that the Knicks are willing to give you more? No, because you're already asking for a haul. That's what I'm saying. Your price is so high already. Even if Donnie does what we think Donnie's going to do, you're not going to get like 10 first-round picks if the guy comes out and improves.
Yeah, if you're going to trade him, you need to trade him now.
You just have to do
because
this.
I also think if he blows up and has the season that we think he's going to have, I think Donovan Mitchell becomes a much more difficult trade to sell to your fan base. And I think that if it were me, I would not trade him. If it were me, I would be trading Mike Conley and Bojan Bogdanovic, and I'd be looking to build around Donovan Mitchell, which, by the way, they told Don they were going to do all the way back to December. And I think that changes when the Knicks start talking about giving you a package of 6 picks. And I think that Danny Ainge has handled this masterfully.
Yeah.
He wants 4 unprotected first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. I think he would take 3. But then the other surrounding draft compensation has to go up.
Yes.
It has to go up. And I think that for my money, that's the thing where I think Danny Ainge starts asking for too much.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for 8 or 10 total picks, that's too much.
It's way too much.
Donovan Mitchell's not worth that. Donovan Mitchell is worth 3 first-round picks and 3 more picks on top of that. Not pick swaps. 3 more picks on top of that. And I think he's worth 2 to 3 young players. And you're going to have to put guys like Fournier in this deal to make it work. But I don't think there's any question that Donovan Mitchell is worth 3 first-round unprotected picks and 3 additional picks.
Yeah.
That's what Don, in my opinion, market value is. If he comes back and scores 30 points a game, I think that goes up.
Yeah.
If he comes back and he's a defensive stalwart and his footwork is vastly improved defensively, that compensation goes up.
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous slope. And I think if you're the New York Knicks, you're trying to buy low, as they should be. Those are the best bargains you're ever going to get. Donovan Mitchell's value is not going to go down. It's going to go up. So I think if you're the Knicks, you want to make this deal now. I think if you're the Jazz, I don't think there's any doubt you'd like to make this deal now. So why hasn't the deal been done?
It's incredible.
That's the biggest question. And the answer is I don't think many people know. I really don't. I think this is just simply a matter of how you come together and how you figure out what's going to make everybody happy to do it. That is the biggest question. Brandon Butler says Danny wants that Herschel Walker deal. Well, I mean, I don't know that that's I don't know that that's a bad comparison, actually. I mean, I thought the Rudy Gobert deal was the Herschel Walker deal. Do you even know what the Herschel Walker deal is? When Herschel Walker was traded from Dallas to Minnesota and Dallas got like 1 million draft picks. And I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's see. Jeremy Severe. Good morning to you. Jeremy says, do the Jazz even want to trade Don? I don't think it's absolute that they want to trade Donovan Mitchell. I really don't. I don't think it's absolute in any way, shape, or form. You know, I think that it is. We'll see. We'll see if they want to trade him. I don't think it's absolute. That's just my opinion. I think this deal needs to happen sooner or later.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, just for the cap space alone, let's say you get 2 unprotected first-round picks and $47 million in cap space. Good Lord.
By the way,
good Lord.
I know this is stating the obvious. It's September 1st now. It's not June anymore. Like, it's time to get going here.